Well, hello everybody. Welcome to Table for Two. I am back here with Stevenson with Puzzlarium, and I am excited because he's here to talk about opening up his brain a little bit and helping us understand uh, how he designs these games. So first of all, we're Table for Two. We're a board gaming community here in San Diego, and this is our web address. So please look us up. And then we'll jump right into talking with Stevenson. So please, what sort of the first things you just get an idea that comes floating in, or do people give you ideas, or how do you get started?
A lot of time there are a lot of different ways to like make a game. In my experience, you can start with an idea or concept that you want to work with, a neat interaction you saw, or a mechanic that you thought was fun. Um, but where you get your ideas is often a bit of a misnomer for a lot of people because people who make games or who are creative about this know all too well that coming up with ideas is not really the issue. It's executing on them.
Ah, okay.
A very common mistake that a lot of creatives of all kinds make, either whether they be armchair inventors or writers or along those lines, is thinking that their ideas are precious.
Oh,
Um, and they're not. Your brilliant, amazing idea that's you're afraid someone's going to steal, share it with people because, quite frankly, they're not going to execute on it. It's not that brilliant of an idea. It's the execution that matters.
right. Okay.
Uh, um, uh, Mario is a game about a guy that jumps around a lot and saves a princess from a turtle. Like, that's not a great idea. It's the execution that always matters. Uh, More to the point, though, if a lot of different directions and angles that people can take to make games. I am I view myself as a professional game designer, and what that means is that I need to make these things to make food. Um, and so the most important rule line of logic for me is to pull games and make games that are going to be able to be finished and games that have a scope that can be finished in time for me to actually ship it. Because if it doesn't ship, you're not a professional.
Yeah.
If the game isn't made, you're not a game designer, you're a game thinker about it. So if you're wondering if you are or aren't a real game designer, easy question. Did you make a game? The answer to that question is the answer to the question of whether you're a real game designer or not. Did it sell well? Not important. Did it make money? Not that important. Is it a game that people can actually play? Yes. If the answer to that question is yes or no, then that's the answer to whether you're a real game designer. How do I make games is a very to me it always starts with a very simple question: what is needed? Um, so, for example, a couple during COVID, I was trying to think of, okay, now is a great time for people to make board game for board games. I would like to make a game that is easy to jump into, but that most importantly is very pitchable. What is a game that you can understand very, very quickly? And so I needed a simple game, simple rules, I understand exactly how to play the game and I'm interested in playing a very hooky game. And so that was the baseline that I started with in order to create Bajillions, a published board game that I was able to make about trivia game about comparing large numbers to each other.
And this was
Um,
during COVID that you made this?
yes, I was able to get this published during 2020. This is a game that you can play online with people.
Oh, cool.
Uh, Yeah, it's if you can sort of the number of Earths that can fit in the sun, or the number of rats in New York City, which is a bigger number.
I have no
That's
idea.
yeah, but that's the heart of the game, and you
Yeah,
bet against your friends on whether you know which one is bigger or not.
cool. And where do you get this online?
Um, so you could buy it on Amazon until about a year ago, but it is now officially out of print.
Okay.
Now the only way you can get it is to talk to me about it because
Oh, okay.
I have the last 35 copies.
Oh
Uh,
wow. Okay.
that I am still selling to folks, but I'm currently making a version you can play on Discord.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Excellent.
and so if you're on my newsletter, then I will tell people about when you can do that. Or if you're in San Diego area, then I'm often at game events. You can pick up a copy off of me.
Okay, cool.
Um, but with respect to making other kinds of games, for example, there is things like Game Frame, which was, I mentioned it last time, a 400 square foot electronic board game. Um, and that one came off, and it's basically 20-player simultaneous Snake, where you're trying to Tron style cut off people as you walk in squares, because the game registers where you are, and then sort of like you border people off and they get trapped. That game came from needing to be able to handle a large number of people who weren't going to sit around for a long rules explanation, and needed to have them cycle through quickly and have a high replayability value. Um, that combined with mechanical requirements is what led to the building of that game. Um, a lot of the times, if you start with what must, then you have the outer boundaries for what may.
Oh, okay.
Um, and for actual working professionals, talk to a professional artist, a professional writer, a professional insert creative field here. All of them will tell you the outlines of what is needed usually dictate what the actual thing is. Now I can get into the MDA framework and the sort of like fun, flowy aspect of like, what if there are no restrictions? To which the answer is you need to add your own, uh, or you're never gonna make anything. But and that is theory crafting and vignettes, and I can get into that possibly in a moment or two. But the short and concise answer is you make what is needed that will work well, that you can actually see on a shelf, and that you can actually ship.
Okay. So you start with sort of creating your what is needed as well as when you're saying what is needed is kind of like, okay, here's my idea for a game, here are my restrictions for it, and that's what I start with. And then
Mhm.
you can kind of build from there.
Yeah. The To be sure, there are many different aspects to making a game. You can
Right.
start. Some people even start with like emotions. I know one guy who successfully made a game that was about squirrels, because he liked squirrels, and literally he had no interest in actually making games. He just said so because what he really wanted was people to focus on squirrels. Um, and cool, I guess, that is a way to do it, and it's not even invalid. It's absolutely a way that you can make games. The way that I make games, though, and I think that a lot of people would benefit from, is to look at it with all games need to have one overarching goal in mind when you're making it, and that is get the game done, get
Okay.
it shipped. um, if you have an idea for a game that is going to take multiple years, unless this isn't your first game, drop that idea or cut it down. Um, because the mindset of a game jam is substantially more useful than the mindset of the world is my oyster.
Right, right.
Yeah. Um, um, are you familiar with game jams?
No, I'm not. So please.
Game jams are a very important accountability trick
Okay.
that game designers, digital and physical board games, do all the time, where they say, okay, you have 48 hours, start to finish, new team of people, strangers you've never met before, make a game. Here's the theme. The theme is usually something random. Um, and go.
Wow.
A lot of board game people think that this is just for video games, and the tradition comes from video games, but they are for board games too. And most game jams also accept board game submissions. Um,
Interesting.
You'll often find them on itch.io, which is a website that at first glance looks like it's just full of indie games. But indie video games and indie board games have way more in common than people realize.
I could see that. I could see that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Um, Game jams are how you can find lifelong friends. Um, um, and they are basically a fire drill, in which basically you're working on a project, it all catches on fire, and everything explodes left, right, and center. Because to make a game within a 48-hour time window is nuts. You
It
have to make the
sounds nuts.
it is, and it is absolutely essential for anyone who wants to be a professional, because it lets you speed run all of the HR problems you're going to run into if you're ever on a team.
Oh,
The dirty truth of our industry, the dirty truth of board games in general, is that if you are a solo dev, you're almost certainly never going to publish anything.
wow.
Um, the if you are alone, you will almost certainly never actually make anything that anyone will ever willingly play. Um, and it really hurts to hear, because this is also a hobby. This is a thing that people enjoy and do for fun, and that is fine. If you are having fun, great, awesome, keep doing that. But if you are entertaining the fantasy that one day you will be a professional, or that one day you'll see a red cent off of anything that you make, then you have to start hurting yourself in these ways.
So it's like getting a team that helps with the graphics and the design, or play testers and things like that, or what kind of team you
They are random other people that have
run?
similar goals to you, that have different skill sets to you. They are
Okay.
people that are neither above nor below you. They are people that are at your level that may have high and mighty ideas of their own, or they might be just willing to submit to your own thing. But the point is that they are going to be strangers that have nothing in common with you except the common desire to make something interesting.
So is part of it also the help of the sort of the synergy you get with people coming in with different views and ideas of what you're trying to create, so it makes it better in the long run? That
Yes.
part of it?
It is that, and it is also you realizing what actually is and is not possible in the amount of time that you have. Because yes, us on the outside, we look at it and we say 48 hours to make a game, that's nuts. But then when you actually start sitting down thinking like, okay, literally both of us right here, right now, Chris, what do you think is a game that the two of us could make in 48 hours? Obviously, we're not going to be making Twilight Imperium, but can you think in your vast collection of games that you have played of a game that could conceivably be made in 48 hours?
I would be
Is that
thinking of,
rhetorical? Yeah, go
yeah,
ahead.
but yeah, I'd think something that along the lines of some sort of very simplistic, in a sense, board game that uses random cards for movement. I know there's a couple like that, but it seems like that's something that one could create within 48 hours.
Mm-hmm.
But
In some of my events I've run, I have actually had 2 hour game jams.
two
Um,
hours,
and we've had successful submissions for those. Um, it is a lot of fun to actually do it, but you are basically making building a vehicle as it's catching on fire, and you're trying to drive it somewhere. Um, and that kind of fire test, that kind of pressure, helps you to be a better leader, helps you to be a better team member. It helps you to actually get things done, because the most important skill for any creative, no matter whether it's music, writing, video games, board game design, anything, is the ability to ship. Um, and this is the best way to do it. Game jams, there's the global game jam, which happens every year. There's the GMTK game jam, which is fine. Um, but there are game jams that are starting every single day on itch.io that you can join
wow,
as part of. And part of the rules of game jam is you submit your proposal, your game submission at before the cutoff date. And then once that submission is in, you are then obligated to look at other people's submissions, give your feedback on theirs, and then everyone sorts the ranks up, and then we see who won and who lost.
Wow.
I have never won a game jam, but that's not the point.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like that is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well,
Um,
I'm afraid we're running out of time.
mm-hmm.
So again, I would love to come back and meet with you again and talk more about your whole design process because I feel like we got into game jams, which I think is really important, obviously, but
Mm-hmm.
also like to get more into like some of the process you've done with your own stuff.
Of
So,
course.
um,
Yeah. I guess the long and short of it is, and the reason why we went off on this is that in my mind, it's not a tangent.
no,
Uh,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be like,
no, I guess I'm just saying that the nice big bow on it is just start with what must, and then what may will come from
yeah,
that. And the short and long answer for it, if you want to make games, fine, make games right now, make bad ones. You have to.
yeah. Okay, let me finish up with our little contact information. And this is for the table for two contact information for those who want to follow that. And then for all of Stevenson's stuff, I highly recommend going and checking out his website and checking out the stuff he's working on. And again, thank you so much for giving us your time and look forward to talking to you again soon.
Of course. Cheers.